In 1953, Lucille Ball was arguably the most famous woman in America. Her show, I Love Lucy, was watched by more people than the president's inauguration. She wasn't just a TV star, she was a national treasure. But on the night of her big season premiere, her husband, Desi Arnaz, had to walk out in front of a live studio audience, not to tell jokes, but to save his wife from a career-ending accusation that she was a secret member of the Communist Party. And it all came down to a 17-year-old piece of paper that almost destroyed everything. The Queen of Television. To really get how close Lucy came to losing it all, you have to understand the world she was running. By 1953, I Love Lucy wasn't just a show. It was a national obsession. The entire country was practically shut down on Monday nights. When Lucy Ricardo gave birth to little Ricky on screen on January 19th, an estimated 44 million Americans tuned in. To put that in perspective, that was more people than watched President Dwight D. Eisenhower's inauguration the very next day. The show was pulling in around 15 million viewers every single week, capturing nearly 60% of all American homes with a TV. Lucy and Desi Arnaz, her real-life husband and on-screen partner, were true pioneers. They ran their own studio, Desilu Productions, giving Lucy a level of creative and business control that was practically unheard of for an actress at the time. They were breaking barriers on screen too, presenting a marriage between a white American woman and a Cuban-American man to a country that was still deeply segregated. Their success was so massive that just months before the scandal broke, they'd signed a record-shattering $8 million contract with CBS and their sponsor, Philip Morris. Lucille Ball wasn't just a comedian, she was a multi-million-dollar enterprise and the most beloved woman in the nation. But lurking in the background of all that success, a secret from her past was about to run headfirst into one of the darkest chapters in American history. The Red Scare and the Secret. The early 1950s were the height of the Second Red Scare, a wave of intense anti-communist paranoia that gripped the United States. This was the era of Senator Joseph McCarthy and the House Un-American Activities Committee, or HUAC, which launched brutal investigations that created a climate of fear. In Hollywood, the biggest threat was the blacklist. A simple accusation of being a communist sympathizer could kill a career overnight. Actors, writers, and directors were publicly shamed, fired, and ostracized from the industry, their lives ruined by nothing more than suspicion. And Lucille Ball had a secret that was way more than just a suspicion. In 1936, during the Great Depression, she registered to vote as a member of the Communist Party. It was a single piece of paper, filed away and forgotten for 17 years. But in the paranoid pressure cooker of 1953, that document was a ticking time bomb. The story was about to be broken by one of the most powerful and feared men in media, gossip columnist Walter Winchell. On his Sunday night radio broadcast, he left his audience with a chilling question. What top red-headed television comedian has been confronted with her membership in the Communist Party? The very next day, the Los Angeles Herald-Express screamed a headline in bold red ink, "Lucille Ball a Red." The fuse was lit. The biggest star in the world was now caught in the same witch hunt that had already destroyed so many others. Her empire, her reputation, and everything she had built were about to go up in flames. The confession. The thing is, HUAC was already looking into her. Just 2 days before Winchell's broadcast, on September 4th, 1953, Lucy had voluntarily met with a HUAC investigator for a closed-door secret session. This was her chance to explain herself. Her testimony, later released, boiled down to a simple, humanizing story. She only did it to please her grandfather, Fred Hunt, a passionate socialist who had raised her like a father. In her sworn testimony, she said, "It was our grandfather. He just wanted us to, and we just did something to please him. I didn't intend to vote that way." She was firm, telling the committee, "I am not a communist now. I have never been. I never wanted to be. Nothing in the world could ever change my mind." But the reality was a bit more complicated. The FBI file on Ball included a claim from a witness that a Communist Party meeting had been held in her home in 1937. When the investigator confronted her with this, Ball flatly denied any knowledge of it. Despite the conflicting information, the investigator seemed satisfied. In that secret meeting, Lucille Ball was cleared. But it didn't matter. The committee might have cleared her in private, but Walter Winchell had put her on trial in the court of public opinion. The headline was out there. And in the era of the blacklist, a private clearance meant nothing if the public, and more importantly, her sponsors, believed she was a traitor. Lucy was terrified, hiding out in her dressing room as the pressure mounted. Her career was hanging by a thread, and it was about to be tested in front of a live studio audience. The speech that saved an empire. As the taping for the next I Love Lucy episode approached, the real question was, would there even be a show? The sponsor, Philip Morris, and the network, CBS, were terrified of a backlash. Canceling the taping felt like the safe move. But Desi Arnaz said no. He knew that hiding would look like an admission of guilt. In a huge gamble, he insisted, the show must go on. That night, before filming began, the 300-person studio audience was buzzing with tension. They'd all seen the headlines. Instead of the usual warm-up act, Desi Arnaz walked to the center of the stage, his face dead serious. He knew this was the most important performance of his career. He started by saying he had a few things he wanted to get straight. He spoke about Lucy's love for America and his own. Then, he delivered the knockout punch, telling the audience how his own family had been forced to flee Cuba because of communism. His voice rising with passion, he declared, "I was kicked out of Cuba because of communism. We despise everything about it." Then came the legendary climax. Desi looked straight at the crowd and said, "The only thing red about Lucy is her hair, and even that's not legitimate." For a split second, there was silence. Then, the studio audience absolutely erupted. They jumped to their feet in a roaring standing ovation that just washed away all the fear and suspicion. It was a massive vote of confidence. Some versions of the story say Arnaz had FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover on the phone, ready to clear Lucy's name over the loudspeaker. While it's more likely that a congressman simply cleared her at a press conference, the effect was the same. When Desi finally introduced his wife, she walked onto the stage with tears streaming down her face, completely overwhelmed by the support. In that moment, her career was saved. Her empire was safe. So why did Lucille Ball survive when so many others were destroyed by the blacklist? Well, it was a perfect storm of a few key things. First, she was just too popular to cancel. She was so incredibly beloved that, as one CBS executive put it, the people seem to think this thing is silly, not serious. They all love Lucy. Second, there was the money. Philip Morris and CBS had an $8 million investment in Lucy, a staggering amount of money back then. They had a powerful financial reason to protect their biggest star. As one film historian noted, the unwritten rule of the blacklist was that the small fry were hooked and gutted. The big fish would be tossed back. But the biggest reason she survived was the fierce, unshakable loyalty of Desi Arnaz. His brilliant PR move, first inviting the press into their home, then facing the audience head-on, turned a potential catastrophe into a legendary story of defiance. Just a few months later, President Eisenhower invited the entire I Love Lucy cast to his birthday celebration. A final public sign that America's favorite redhead was officially in the clear. The scandal didn't just fail to derail I Love Lucy. It became a part of its legend. A real-life drama where love, loyalty, and laughter actually won. If you enjoyed this look into one of Hollywood's most dramatic moments, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories from the Golden Age and beyond. Thanks for watching.